Hey guys, welcome to video lesson number 13. This is for Module 1, Topic C, Lesson 13. I'm going to help you with some more of the video notes, and I'm also going to help you with problem set number 13. I'm only going to kind of help you get started with the problem set, and then we'll go over all the solutions in class. So let's begin. So there were two examples in your video that were not discussed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through them with you here and give you all the solutions. So a group of hikers are prepared for a week. All of the group's supplies will be carried by the hikers in backpacks. The leaders decide that each hiker will carry a backpack that is the same fraction of weight to all the other hikers' weights. That means the heaviest hiker will carry the heaviest load. The table shows the weight of each hiker and the weight of each backpack. So we're going to complete the table. We're going to find the missing amount of weight by applying the same value of ratio as the first two rows. So before we get started, I want to talk about comparing pounds to ounces. So if you notice, I'm going to highlight these here for you. If you notice, a lot of these end in ounces. So what I'd like to do is convert everything into fractions so you guys here in school can put all your solutions in the calculator. So there are 16 ounces to 1 pound. So this 152 pounds and 4 ounces is going to become, oops, there we go. It's going to become 152, and this will be 4 over 16. And I'm going to reduce that. You don't have to reduce it. You can keep it 4/16, but I just simplified it to 1/4. This 14 pounds, 8 ounces. The 8 ounces would be 8 out of 16. And when you reduce, I get 14 1/2 ounce. Okay, and then we want the total weight. So to find the total weight, what we are going to do is we are going to add 152 1/4 plus 14 1/2, and we get our total weight here. And if you put that in your calculator, remember you're going to need the second function and the n over d function to type in these two fractions. You will get a grand total of 166 3/4 as a final answer. Okay, please be patient with yourself. Please make sure you're using the calculator and going through each of these steps on your own, because when you take a quiz or a test, I will not be walking you through calculator steps. So 10 ounces is 10 over 16. And I reduced it to 5 over 8, so I have 107 5/8. And here we have 10 pounds, 4 ounces. It's 4 ounces out of 16 ounces, so I get 10 1/4 pounds. Okay, so all of these solutions are written as pounds. And if I take, again, like I did before, if I take 107 5/8 plus 10 1/4, please add that up in your calculator to get a grand total of 117 7/8. So before I go any farther, I'm going to delete some of the highlight stuff here so I could point a couple of things out to you. So what I did was I wanted to find the relationship between hiker weight and backpack weight. So what I did in my calculator is I took 152 1/4 and I divided it by 14 1/2. So I took this weight and divided it because I want to know how many times heavier. I just want to find the common factor. I want to see what I'm dividing by. When I did that, I got an answer of 10.5. I hope you are punching this in your calculator once again. So if you take your calculator and do 152 and 1/4 and divide that by 10.5, and divide this by 10.5, you will get this 14 1/2 ounces. So I know the relationship is to divide the hiker weight by 10.5 to get the backpack weight. So obviously the hiker's weight is heavier than the backpack weight. So down here, for 129 pounds and 15 ounces, this is going to be 129 and 15 over 16. I'm going to divide this. We'll use 10 1/2. I found the decimal at home because I don't have a calculator like yours here at my house. So we're going to use 129 and 15/16 and divide it by 10 1/2. Please pause the video and then check your solution with my work. Okay, and I got a solution of 12 3/8. Okay, what I'm going to do now is take this 29 and 15/16 and add 12 3/8 to find the total weight. My total weight is 142 pounds and 15/16 of a pound. Okay, the next row, to find the backpack weight, I'm going to take 68. 4 ounces is 4 out of 16. I just reduced that to 1/4. But that says 1/4. I don't know if you can read it clearly. So it says 68 and 1 divided by 4, or 1/4, sorry. And I'm going to divide this by this 10 1/2. Okay, once again, I'd like for you to pause here so you can come up with this missing solution here for backpack weight. And hopefully you come up with 6 1/2. So just to review, I took this 168, sorry, I took 68 and 1/4 and I divided it by 10 and I got 6 1/2. So when I go from the left hiker's weight to backpacker weight, I'm dividing by 10. But if I wanted to, if I had this backpack weight and I wanted to find the hiker's weight, I would times 10. So if I go left to right, I'm going to divide by 10. But if I start on the right and go left, I'm going to times by 10. So what I'm going to do is take this 8 pounds, 12 ounces, that's 12 out of 16. And that reduces to 3/4. So I'm going to take 8 3/4. And since I'm going to the left, I'm going to times this by 10 1/2. So take a minute and take 8 3/4 and times it by 10 1/2. And you should get an answer of 91 7/8. So just a quick review. I took 8 3/4, I times it by 10, and I got an answer of 91 7/8. And on the bottom, I'm going to take 10 pounds even. I'm going to times it by my my constant of 10.5. Sorry, or 10 1/2, and I get an answer of 105. And I'm just going to go back through here now and write the totals. So if I add, where's my highlighter? If I add 168, I don't know why I keep saying 168. If I add 68 1/4 plus 6 1/2, I'm going to get an answer of 74 3/4. And these answers are all in pounds. And in the next row, if I take 91 7/8 and add 8 3/4, I will get an answer of 100 5/8 pounds. And in the bottom here, if I take 105 and add 10 pounds, I get a total answer of 115 pounds. All right, so that's the whole first page. It's page S53. Turn the page and let's go to S54 and let's work on this table here. So I know there's a chart attached. The chart's going to be on the next page here for me. What I'd like to do here is just answer this first part of the question. So it says when a business buys a fast food franchise, a franchise is something like McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, Burger King, Frank's Pizza, pretty much any shop where you go anywhere and you see the same business elsewhere, you can call them a franchise. And generally, like a Sylvan Learning Center, Dunks, anything like that, they're all considered franchise, but they have to follow the specific recipes. So whether you go to a Dunkin' Donuts in New Jersey or a Dunkin' Donuts in California, the item that you're purchasing tastes exactly the same. So, for example, all pizzeria specialty house restaurants have different owners, but they all must use the same recipe for their pizza, sauce, bread, etc. You're now working at your local pizzeria specialty house restaurant, and listed below are the amounts of meat used on one meat lover's pizza. So the first question you are asked is, what's the total amount of toppings used in pizza? So remember, our answer will be in cups. So if you take your calculator, do 1/4 plus 1/3, 1/6, plus 1/8, 1/8. You should get an answer of 1 cup. Okay, 1 cup. So let's see. I'm going to do this by hand. 68. I can make these denominators 12. Well, nonetheless, this is 2, this is 4, 7, this is 9 over 12. Common denominator is going to be 24 for both of these. 3, 6. You guys don't have to do this. You can put this all in your calculator. 18 plus 6, get 24 over 24. I just wanted to prove to myself that it was. So if you punch all this into your calculator, 1/4 plus 1/3 plus 1/6 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, you will get an answer of 1 cup. Now, let's go to the next page. I have the list of ingredients here in the red box. This question is going to take a little time, so get comfortable. Maybe pause for a minute, go get yourself a drink of water, and then come back. So when I look at this table, what I did was I took this red chart and I wrote in how much I need to keep proportionality. So I need to keep 1/4 cup of sausage. I need to keep in proportion to 1/3 cup of pepperoni. I need 1/6 cup of bacon. I need 1/8 cup of ham, and I need 1/8 cup of beef. So the meat must be mixed using the ratios to ensure that the customer receives the same tasting meat lovers pizza from every pizzeria specialty house restaurant nationwide. So nationwide means across America. The table shows 3 different orders for meat lovers pizza on a night of the professional football championship game. Using the amounts and totals for one pizza given above, which is the stuff in the box, fill in every row and column of the table so the mixture tastes the same. So what it's saying is order number 1, they had to use 1 cup of sausage. Okay, they had to use 1 cup of sausage. So what we're going to do is find our rate, our unit rate. So in your calculator, you're going to take 1 and divide it by what I need. I need 1/4 cup. So when you take 1 and divide it by 1/4, you get an answer of 4. This is my K. This is my unit rate. So what I'm going to do is take all of these numbers in red and times them by 4 to get the amount of meat I need for order number 1. So I'm going to times 1/4 by 4. So if you take 1/4 and times it by 4, I promise you, you're going to get 1. Please check all of these solutions with your calculator. So now I'm going to take 1/3 and times this by 4, and you'll get a final answer of 1 1/3. So please make sure you're pausing and make sure you're typing this into your calculator because I want you to practice. You're going to take 1/6 and times it by 4. You get an answer reduced to 2/3. If you take 1/8 and times this by 4, you're going to get a final answer reduced to 1/2. If you take 1/8 times by 4, you'll get 1/2 just like you did above. Okay, we'll worry about total cups at the end. So for order number 2, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to write the amount or the ratio I need to keep all of my meat in proportion to what I started with. So I need 1/6 cup of bacon, 1/8 cup of ham, and 1/8 cup of beef. So what I'm going to do is take a look at the row that has a solution in there already. So this has a solution of 1. So what I'm going to do is take my answer of 1 and divide it by 1/6. And hopefully you're getting an answer of 6. So this column is 6 times the amount of meat. The first column is 4 times the amount of meat. So what I'm going to do for the second column now is multiply everything by 6. Because I know that if I take 1/6 and times it by 6, check it in your calculator, you're going to get an answer of 1. So I'm going to go through each of these purple fractions and times them all by 6. Okay, so I'd like for you to take a second, solve these, and then check your answers. And I'm just going to keep going here. So now's a good time to pause. So here we get an answer of 1 1/2. Here we get an answer of 2. Here we got an answer of 1. Here's a final answer reduced to 3/4. And once again, 3/4. Okay, and finally, the column to the right here, order number 3. I'm going to start by writing, what color haven't I used yet? Start with black. I'm going to start by writing the original ratios that I started with. So 1/2, 1/3, 1/6, 1/8, 1/8 again. And I'm going to take all of these numbers and I need to figure out what to divide by. So I can use this pepperoni information. I know that if I take 3, the solution, and divide it by 1/3, it'll give me what I'm going to multiply by. Or I can take 1 1/8 and divide it by 1/8 to find what my unit rate is, what my constant is. I'm going to use the easier numbers. So I'm going to take 3 and we'll divide by 1/3. And hopefully you're getting an answer of 9. So that means in order number 3, their pizzas are getting 9 times the amount of meats. Okay, so I'm going to take each one of these values and times them by 9. Okay, and this is a good time to pause and come up with all your solutions and then check your answers. We know this answer is 3, and we know this answer is 1 1/8. So up here we get an answer of 2 1/4. Here we get an answer of 1 1/2. Here we get an answer of 1 1/8, and we know that last one. So total cups. So let's see if I can do this. Total cups means take the total number of cups needed for order number 1 and add them. So you see all the numbers that I circled? What you're going to do is put them in your calculator and find the total cup. Then you're going to go to order number 2 and you're going to add up the numbers that I circled here for order number 2 to figure out the total number of cups down here. And for order number 3, let me circle those for you. Where is that red? So you're going to add up 2 1/4, 3, 1 1/2, 1 1/8, and 1 1/8. And again, you're going to take those numbers, and we are going to add up the numbers in the circle to come up with this final solution. Okay, so take a minute, find that out now, and I will give you all the solutions. You should get an answer of 4, 6, and 9 cups. All right, so that was page S54. Let's turn the page and I believe S55 was done in your video already. So if you have questions on that, now's a good time to pause and come see me and I will help you. So let's begin problem set number 13. So what I'm going to do is just kind of give you some guidance, help you come up with the common factor, your unit rate, your K, and then we can go over all the solutions in class together. But I just want to help you guys get started. You will complete the entire problem set, and I'm just here to help. So for this one, I want to look at a row that has the slices of cheese pizza and the slices of pepperoni pizza. So either this one or pretty much that's it. And I want to take bigger number is usually what I do and divide it by the smaller number. So in your calculator, you're going to take 15 and divide it by 6. And when you do that, you get 2.5. So if you write your equation, it's y is equal to 2.5x. So the number x would be your cheese, and y would be your pepperoni. What does that mean? There's definitely way more pepperoni than there is cheese pizza, or cheese slices, sorry. We'll worry about the total here a little later. So when I take 6 to find 15, I have to multiply 6 by 2.5. And that gives me my answer of y for 15. So in your calculator, if you do 6 times 2.5, you should get 15. So when I go from left to right, I'm multiplying by 2.5. So for the next example, I'm going from left to right again, so I'll be multiplying by 2.5. So 8 times 2.5, or 2 1/2, you decide what you want to use, you get an answer of 20. For this next example, if you notice, I'm going from right to left. So when I do this, I'm going backwards now. So instead of multiplying by 2.5, I'm going to divide by 2.5. So in your calculator, do 13 3/4 divided by 2 1/2. Okay, pause the video if you need, and you should get an answer of 5 1/2. Okay, for the next example, we are going left to right again. So in this scenario, since we're going left to right, we're going to continue multiplying by 2 1/2. So 3 times 2 1/2 gives us 8 1/3. So for this last one, I thought it was really interesting. What I did was I made this improper. So 10 times 2 is 20, plus 1 is 21/10. So what I did was I kind of ignored the numerator, and in my brain, I kind of asked myself, like, what plus what would equal 21? And if I go back through this list, if I take 6 plus 15, that gives me 21. And if I take 8 plus 20, that gives me 28 slices of pizza. 5.5 plus 13 3/4, that gives me 19 1/4. And if I add 3 1/2 and 8 1/3, that gives me 11 2/3. So if I take a look at this row here, where I'm putting the dot, I know 6 plus 11 gives me 21. So what this means is 6 out of 10 and 15 out of 10 will give me 21 out of 10 if I add that. And then fractions reduced are 3/4, and this would be 1 5/10, so that reduces to 1 1/2. So I just kind of used the numbers around me to help me find the solution. Okay, and for the top row, since 7's a pretty small number, and these numbers in the table are already kind of large, I started with a small number. So in my head, I said, what would happen if I take 2? So I'm going to take 2 and multiply it by 2.5, and that gives me 5. So I just did a guess and check. So if this was 2, if I times this by 2.5, I did that here, I get an answer of 5. So 2 cheese plus 2 pepperoni give me 7 slices altogether. Well, so much for helping you through the problem set. I did the whole number 1 for you. So let's move on to number 2. So same idea for number 2. What I'm going to do is look at a row that has the 2 colors that we're working with. And what I did was I took the larger fraction and I divided it by the smaller fraction. And I got a solution of 1 1/2. So that's my factor. When I go from yellow to blue, that represents my unit rate. So I'm going to times this by, sorry, I didn't understand why I wrote these other numbers. I'm going to multiply this by 1 1/2, and I get an answer of 5 1/4. Okay, this row, I'll help you with it now. Again, what I did was I started with yellow, and since 5 is a fairly small number, I asked myself, if I take 1 and times it by 1 1/2, well, that's not going to change. But 1 plus 1 1/2 is 2 1/2. So then I took 2 and I times it by 1 1/2. So if you take your calculator and take 1 1/2, that gives you an answer of 3. And 2 plus 3 equals 5. So I pretty much am just doing guessing and checking when the 2 parts are missing and I have the solution. So think about this. If I go from yellow to blue and I times by 1 1/2, when I go from blue to yellow, am I going to keep multiplying or should I be dividing now? Okay, so hopefully you said dividing. And then down here, I'm going to take 6 1/2 since I'm going from yellow to blue. Do we multiply or do we divide? And hopefully you said multiply by 1 1/2. Okay, so please finish up this table and we will go over it later. In example 3, so again, I'm going to start in this row here because I have both distance I ran and distance distance that we can run and distance that we bite. And I'm going to find the unit rate. So I'm going to take the larger number, 7, and divide it by 3 1/2. And I get an answer of I think it came out to 2. Okay, so that's my unit rate. That's my my constant. So what that means is when I take 3.5, am I going to times it by 2 to get 7? Am I going to times 2 or divide 2? And hopefully you're saying 3.5 times 2 gets me to 7. So when I go left to right in this example, I'm going to times 2. When I go left to right, we're going to do what? Times it by 2. So if I go the other way, right to left, what am I going to do with my number? We're going to divide by 2. Okay, so now the top, you're like, well, how the heck do I do the top problem? Again, I always start with small numbers and I do guess and check. I said, well, if I take 1, all right, and take 1 and times it by 2, I get 2. And if I take 1 plus 2, that gives me 3. So 1's a little too small, so 2. And if I take 2 times 2, I get 4. And if I add 2 plus 4, I get 6. So voila, I guessed it. So this is 2 and 4. Okay, and you guys could add up all the totals in here. What is the relationship between the distance biked and the distance run? Who's more, the distance we run or the distance we bike? How much more is this bike distance? Think about what the factor is. Think about what the unit rate is. Think about what K is. Our formula will be y is equal to 2x. This would be x, this would be y. So what I'm asking you is, what's the relationship? Who's bigger? And tell me how much bigger. All right, and let's go to the last example. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on here. You guys pretty much see the pattern at this point. I'm going to look in here. I will find the pattern. So I take the larger number and divide by the smaller. And I believe this came out to 1.2. Again, I need you guys to make sure that you're punching all these numbers into the calculator so you are practicing and you are going through the steps. Okay, I can show you 1,000 times. Unless you try, you're not going to learn. So what this means is, we'll call this X, call this Y. I'm sorry if you hear any noise in the background. Dante's got cloudy with a chance of meatballs blasting downstairs, and it's coming up here pretty clearly. Sound, that is. So we have our equation, y is equal to 1.2x. Okay, this is our unit rate, it's our k, or our constant of proportionality. So when I have x, to get to y, I'm going to multiply by 1.2. When I have y and I'm trying to find x, I divide by 1.2. So you guys can figure the rest out. Make sure you add the total number of cups, and you guys can give this one a try and take a good guess. Pick small numbers. So if you pick 2, multiply 2 by 1.2, you're going to get some answer. You'll take 2 plus whatever answer that is, and you're trying to get 2 numbers that add up to 11. I will give you one clue. These are whole numbers, so it's not going to be like 4.2 and whatever. It's going to be like 3 and 4 or something along those lines. All right, you guys have been great. Thanks for sticking with it. Please come ask any questions that you might have. Bye.